It was day 9 of our challenge. I sat with a full online shopping cart, but for some reason, I couldn't bring myself to press the checkout button. Quote, the items weren't necessities, just a candle, a new mug, and another storage box that somehow felt like a reward after a long day. As I looked at my phone, I quietly wondered what I was really trying to buy, the products themselves or the feeling of relief they promised. Hearing Mira laugh with Armand in the kitchen, I realized the urge to shop had appeared when life simply felt ordinary, as if I was trying to fill an empty space. My name is Clara, and that month our family began a 30-day low-buy month, expecting the hardest part to be resisting purchases, but soon discovering the real challenge was something much deeper. The idea came after I finished our monthly spending report. No purchase seemed serious alone, but the small, unexplained expenses quietly added up. That evening, I showed the list to Armand. He said our money wasn't leaking from one big expense, but from many tiny ones. We counted everything together: coffee stops, forgotten subscriptions, and boredom purchases. Each seemed harmless, yet together they had become an everyday habit. I suggested we stop unnecessary shopping for 30 days. Armand smiled and admitted the challenge would be harder than we expected. During dinner, we told Mira about the challenge, including that new toys would have to wait. She happily suggested playing more with the toys she already had. We made a simple calendar, and every evening Mira marked another successful day without unnecessary spending. Those little check marks kept us motivated. By the 4th day, I caught myself opening the shopping app whenever I felt tired, even without planning to buy anything. That's when I realized I might have been searching for comfort instead of something new. On day 6, I waited for Mira at the park instead of browsing the nearby shop. Without my usual routine, my hands felt surprisingly restless. Almost without thinking, I opened a shopping app on my phone. I closed it moments later, realizing how automatic the habit had become. That evening, I told Armand about it. He admitted he often opened food delivery apps during work breaks, even when he wasn't hungry. By day 7, I started paying attention to when the urge to shop appeared. It usually came after exhausting tasks, quiet afternoons, or ordinary days. I created a simple journal with 3 columns: when I wanted to shop, how I felt, and whether I bought anything. The same emotions kept showing up. Looking at my notes, I realized I often needed rest, a conversation, or a warm cup of tea, not another purchase. Before bed, I wrote one sentence in my notebook: if my emotions are the ones shopping, nothing I buy will ever feel like enough. At that moment, our low-buy month became about much more than spending less. As we entered the 2nd week, we made one simple rule. Instead of saying no to non-essential purchases, we would simply say, let's see tomorrow. I called it the 24-hour cooling period. If something still felt important the next day, we would think about buying it then. One day, Armand almost bought new headphones. By the following day, he had completely forgotten about them, and we both laughed. Soon, I experienced the same thing with a beautiful kettle. After waiting a day, I realized the one we already owned worked perfectly well. Even Mira joined the challenge after asking for a small doll at the supermarket. I told her we could talk about it the next day if she still wanted it. The next day, she had already forgotten about the doll. We both laughed when she couldn't even remember what she had wanted. That night, I marked another check on our calendar and realized something had changed. We were buying less, yet our home felt fuller with conversations and quieter without constant shopping notifications. By day 15, Mira had filled our calendar with check marks. Everything looked normal, but I realized how often I wanted to reward myself with another purchase. That rainy afternoon, I almost ordered my favorite warm drink. Instead, I made hot chocolate at home and realized only my habit had changed. I noticed the same pattern everywhere. Boredom, exhaustion, or finishing a chore often made me want to buy something, as if every emotion needed a reward. Armand admitted he almost bought coffee just because his coworkers did. He stayed with a glass of water instead and realized he only wanted the conversation. I began wondering if many of our purchases had never been about the products at all, but about comfort, distraction, or changing our mood. That night, I added another note in my journal about shopping not always being about money. I quietly sat with those words for a long time. By day 16, no packages arrived and no shopping notifications appeared. The house felt surprisingly peaceful, and for the first time, I simply enjoyed the silence. It was day 18, a Saturday when we would normally spend hours at the mall. Instead, we chose to continue our low-buy month and visit the neighborhood park. Myra brought her ball, Armand packed a folding mat, and I prepared a simple meal from home. We planned to enjoy the day without buying anything. At the park, Myra chased soap bubbles while Armand and I watched her. Without shopping bags or checkout lines, the afternoon felt calm and unhurried. As we ate together, Myra smiled and said the day had been so much fun, even though we hadn't bought anything. Looking around, I noticed families laughing together. No one seemed happier because they were carrying shopping bags home. When I asked Myra what she loved most, she answered without hesitation, spending time together. Walking home, I realized I had always believed special weekends needed money. Holding Armand's hand, I quietly understood that what made the day special had been our time together. By day 21, I reviewed our bank statement again. Spending had dropped, but what surprised me most was realizing I hadn't even wanted to browse shopping apps for days. I noticed small changes at home. Instead of staring at separate screens, Armand, Myra, and I spent our evenings together, and the house felt warmer. As I filled another page in my notebook, I asked myself one question. If we weren't buying things to feel better, what was making us feel like we already had enough? That afternoon, Armand and I shared tea while I folded laundry. Without our phones or the TV, a simple conversation felt more rewarding than any purchase. I admitted I once believed shopping could improve my mood. Now I realized 15 quiet minutes with Armand gave me the same comfort. That night, I wrote another reflection in my notebook. I read it slowly, grateful for how much my perspective had changed. I named our biggest lesson the 24-hour cooling period. It was no longer just about delaying purchases, but creating space so emotions didn't make the decision first. The next evening, after Myra fell asleep, Armand and I sat on the balcony. I asked if we'd return to our old habits after the challenge ended, and he quietly thought before answering. Armand said we would probably still shop, but hopefully not just to escape stress or exhaustion. His words perfectly captured what had been changing. Looking back, I realized we had never truly gone without. We still enjoyed good meals, laughter, and happy weekends. It's only the way we found happiness had changed. I admitted I once believed shopping could fix a stressful day. Now, I'd rather take an evening walk with Armand and Myra, because that brought me real peace. Armand said the greatest reward wasn't the money we saved, but how our home felt fuller with cooking, talking, playing, and simply being together. I looked at Myra's calendar covered with little check marks. Each one reminded me that lasting habits were built one day at a time. Before we went inside, Armand thanked me for starting the challenge. Holding his hand, I realized the happiness I had been searching for through shopping had been waiting at home all along. Day 30 finally arrived. Myra drew the last green check mark on our calendar, and it felt less like finishing a challenge and more like beginning a new way of living. That afternoon, we reviewed our monthly expenses together. We had saved money, but the biggest reward was everything that had changed beyond our bank account. I opened my shopping app one last time and deleted every item in my cart. For the first time, I didn't feel like I was giving anything up. The following week, Myra reminded me about our 24-hour rule when she wanted a small toy. Watching her walk away happily, I realized she had been learning alongside us. A few days later, Armand brought home donuts as a thoughtful treat. Sharing them together felt intentional, not like another impulse purchase. I realized the biggest change wasn't spending less, it was pausing to ask myself what I truly needed before making any decision. That night, as the house grew quiet, I looked around and smiled. Nothing we owned had become more expensive, yet our home felt richer with time, conversation, and being together. The greatest lesson from those 30 days wasn't learning how to stop shopping. It was understanding myself and what my urge to buy was really trying to say. I discovered those moments often meant I was tired, bored, or simply needed company. Once I listened to those feelings first, I didn't always need to buy something. We still use our 24-hour cooling period, not as a strict rule, but as a gentle pause to ask whether we're buying a real need or just chasing a feeling. Mia reminded me that children rarely remember the toys they didn't get. What they remember are the moments spent playing, laughing, and being together. Before we finish, I'd love to hear from you. What would be the hardest thing for you to stop buying for 30 days? And what do you think that habit is really trying to tell you?